Hey, what's going on guys? It's Mark back in the workshop on Mark's Aquatics. Right, we're on to the pea puffer video. I think it's number 3. We've done all the way from the start there, from the setting up the tank. As you can see, I've made a few changes to the tank. We'll get into that in a short while. And you've seen the eggs now being laid behind that little bit of rick here on the left hand side there. I've actually taken some out and I've put those eggs aside, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly take you through what's been happening over the last few days. Now, after the eggs were laid, I've moved them into a little breeder box which was in this tank here in the top. I've since moved them out into their own little separate tank on the side, and we're bringing them on. Now, I did have one little tiny baby puffer hatch out. I've got some footage of him, but sadly he didn't make it. He may have been a little bit misfigured or something like that, or his spine wasn't right. Something wasn't right with him, but he didn't make it, bless him. So but his brothers and sisters, I think those eggs were laid a couple of days after, are coming on in leaps and bounds. So I can show you some footage, and in fact they're actually hatched. I think there's a couple that have actually hatched out as I'm speaking. They're very, very small. I'll film them shortly for you, and so you can see them, but they are super small at the moment. They're like little pinheads. Very, very small indeed. But what you can see now, what I've done is, where's my tongs so I don't get my hands in the way, I've added a large piece of sphagnum moss which I got from up in my local woods. Okay, and basically what that's going to do is create an infusoria culture in there, also give them somewhere to go and breed, because I want to keep this system going and I want to keep breeding as many little pea puffers as I can, so I can hopefully put some back into the pet trade and sell them off as captive bred puffers, so it takes a little bit of that demand away from the wild population, which is sadly is in decline. But these are really coming on lovely now. You can see that male there just on the left hand side with that big dark stripe through him and under his belly. He's looking right at you now. He's still in charge of his 3 girls. I'm sure they've been laying more eggs. He's starting to chase them around now, and this is how that mating behaviour starts, where he will chase, like you saw on the last video. He will pursue her, chase her around, and that will end up either underneath here or under the back somewhere. They'll find somewhere nice and safe and secure where they'll deposit those little eggs. Could be up to 10 or 12 eggs, sometimes more if they've been a little bit egg bound over time. And then they'll hatch. Those will slowly hatch out over time. But the reason for putting this in is because they're going to go deep within this moss and deposit those eggs together, and then obviously when they come apart, those eggs are going to drop down right in amongst the bottom of this, and they're going to lay there undisturbed where they're not going to find them. And then after a few days, the infusoria culture from this moss is going to be produced deep in amongst that as well, where they're going to be as very, very tiny little, you know, babies, where the parents can't get to them, and they're going to feed on that infusoria and slowly grow and then come out into the water as they feel a little bit safer to do so. As you can see, that one's gone in there underneath. That's the sort of thing they're going to do, and then they're going to lay some more eggs in the bottom. The male's looking at his reflection in the side of the glass here, thinking there's another male that he's going to try and shoo away, because these are his girls. When you take moss though, guys, from your, if you in an area where you can get moss, you chasing my tongs. You can't eat tongs, you silly girl. She's so used to being fed from the tongs, that's the thing. No, I'll have another go. You know what it is now, don't you? She says, I'm not silly, your mate's coming to have a look now instead. But yes, getting back to this, when you get it from the woods, guys, make sure obviously it's a very clean area where you're going to get it from. There's no pollutants or anything like that which are going to contaminate it. And do a partial water change in your tank, and that water that you take out, squeeze this moss, pump it in amongst it, because this was super dry when I found it in the woods, because it's the summertime here, and it was desiccated. So it's full of little creatures. Take it out, pump it out in the water, rehydrate it, and then put it into the tank. Don't worry about any little creatures that are on it. tiny little wood lice or anything like that, because these guys will go to town and they'll clean all them up in no time at all. As they crawl out because of the water, they'll be attacking them and eating them, which is going to give them some extra protein in their diet to produce more eggs for you later on. It's the way things go, it's nature, and that's, I know some of you might think, oh, it's cruel, but you know, if you're going to breed things, that's the way I've always done it. If you can replicate nature, it's going to be so much more beneficial, and you're going to get some higher quality eggs then from that live food that they've been feeding on. Now obviously that sphagnum moss isn't going to live underwater. It will live in that water, believe it or not, for a couple of months before it starts to die back. But it will actually grow in the tank for a month, like that video I made a long time ago where I grew a lot of terrestrial moss in a tank, and it did last for quite some time. But I found by doing partial water changes with it and releasing it into the air for a short period of time and then refilling the tank again was a lot more beneficial for it, getting that little bit of air now and again to the roots and to everything else. But you can see they're really happy, they're in amongst it, looking for things, and that shows you when they're happy. Now you can really tell the sexes apart now. You look at that male who's pacing up and down the front of the tank there. He's just shooed all the girls off. He's found another one. Now they can get quite territorial, puffers, so you've got to be careful and give them plenty of places to hide, like I said in the other couple of videos, because the males can get quite aggressive towards the females sometimes. Okay. Now I've seen a lot of there's not a great deal of research been done on these pea puffers before, especially where breeding's concerned. I think I'm probably the only one who's got some footage of, I think I've seen one other bit of footage actually on some pea puffers coming together and spawning, but it was a very short video. It's just someone that was breeding them in a tank. They weren't actually doing a video, they were just showing you them spawning. But I think it's the first video on YouTube, or maybe in the world, that's going to take it from start to finish with rearing them off and rearing them, bringing these little guys on. And I thought I'd share as much as I can, like I do in most of my videos, with you, so you can replicate these things at home and try and bring some on yourself. They're a super little fish, really inquisitive, darting in amongst, darting in here, darting in there. You can see those two there, that male and female there, he's pursuing her into that side, right into there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually going to come together. They're right in there if you can see them, and that's what they do. They're going to go in there like the last video, come together and release those eggs. Here he comes, nudging away, slightly nudging. Be nice if they did it for you. He's trying his hardest there, but I gave him a little water change just before, and that's what normally triggers them to start spawning again. And he's in hot pursuit. Brilliant stuff. But if they're not ready, obviously they won't lay the eggs, but it's great fun to watch them nevertheless. Right, let's go and have a look at some of these little tiny baby pea puffers in the eggs. I'll show you a little bit of footage first on the one that didn't make it, which I managed to get some closer up footage, and then I'll show you the eggs and their new little tank which I've set up, which is just to the left of me on the bench here, where the babies are going to hopefully all hatch out great. Well, we've got two out, and we can rear them up. Well, there you go guys, we've got number one out. Very small, just hatched out. I've got a magnifying glass in front of the camera here, just trying to get you some shots. Very small. And if I take the camera away, I'll just pause you a minute. Right, there you go. You can, I've got the camera zoomed up now just on its own, but you can see it there right in the corner. I'll try and get in a bit closer. Bear with me. But that is a freshly hatched baby pea puffer you're looking at there. And if you look around here, we've got some more in the eggs. You can, maybe if you're lucky, you'll see them move inside the eggs. But they normally hatch between 24 and 48 hours. I think this one was laid maybe a day before, because this one's hatched first. It was a lot more advanced than the other ones. And we've got another egg there. I think we've got 10 in total, but these ones are just starting to change colour now. Very, very hard to focus on these, I do apologise. But when they're out and they're swimming around a little bit more, we'll have another little update, okay? Right, okay, what I've done is I've moved now the box with the babies in from the parents' tank, and I've got their own little tank set up there for when they actually hatch. Now they've just started to hatch. You saw that picture of the last one that was a little bit more advanced, and that one sadly didn't make it. But these guys in here are just starting to change now. They're just hatched. If you look right, I'll try and get one right in. So if you look in the center of the screen, you'll see one there with its little tail. I'll zoom in slowly. There you go. If you look, oh, there's two out now. There's one on the right hand side. You can see that little tadpole tail stuck out, but the one in the middle of the screen there, you can just see that little tail sticking up as well. Now they've still got the yolk sacs on, that little round belly, so they're going to be using that up for the next sort of 24 hours before they become free swimming. So they're just motionless at the moment, probably just feeding away on that yolk sac, just like you see the little plex do, and most fry, when you see them come out, they've got that little fat belly full of yolk still that they're feeding on, and you'll see the little tail waggle now and again, and they'll absorb that slowly over the next few hours, maybe a day or so, before they start hovering about looking for food to look in amongst the water column. So we got some babies out, which is fantastic. Like I said, sadly the other one didn't make it, but that's the nature of things. He may have been weak or something not right with it, so it didn't make it. But these guys hopefully will do, and we'll have some nice little baby puffers swimming around, and you can watch them chase and hunt down some Artemia, some freshly hatched little brine shrimps, which I've already got on the go for when they're ready for them. Anyway, getting back to the parent tank, they're all happy. He's still chasing those girls around. I'm going to let this go now, like I said before, and hopefully they'll be laying more eggs in amongst all the moss, and we'll have some more little babies come out and they'll be free swimming in there, and I'm going to try and bring them up in there, and I'm just going to see how things go, because there's a lot of cover for them to hide in there, and there'll be a lot of food for the babies, and I'll add infusoria obviously in there as well for them to eat, and some freshly hatched brine shrimp, which I've got in my little pot there bubbling away, all ready for them for when they are big enough to take it. Anyway guys, I'm going to leave it on that one. So that's a nice little bit of success. We've got some babies on the way, and I'll give you an update probably on Wednesday now on how they're getting on, and we can watch them feeding, which will be really interesting stuff. Anyway guys, as always, love you loads, take care of yourselves, you're all stars, and I'll see you on the next episode of Mark's Aquatics. Bye for now.
Just me and my guitar.